Welcome to the show, everybody. Happy Monday to everybody out there. Hope you had a fantastic Sunday, a great Lord's Day. We got a great show for you. Going to start out the week talking a little bit about this very peculiar story concerning Ayanna Pressley's husband's property. I don't know. Have any of you guys ever seen that movie? I don't know if it's a classic movie, but it was certainly a movie that I grew up with called Boys in the Hood. It's kind of the where you see all those saxophones getting louder meme. I mean, that's where that comes from. But there's also a very iconic scene in that film where one of the little boys is like, "Hey, y'all want to see a dead body?" Yeah, so we're going to talk about this very peculiar story about Ayanna Pressley and what exactly is she involved in here? What exactly is her husband involved in here? And we don't really know. I mean, that's the thing. We don't really know. But, man, it is such a peculiar story. Also, it looks like monarchies are alive and well to me. I don't know about what you guys think about Lindsey Graham's sister. Not only has she been appointed to serve out the rest of his term, she is now getting into the race, the special election. I don't know. I mean, I just kind of feel like the people of South Carolina are being robbed of getting away from a particular bloodline. President Trump is basically on board with this, wants her to run, has been urging her to run. She tells Sean Hannity, hey, she's running now. So it really makes you think. It really makes you think about the people of South Carolina. I mean, I know they're going to go to the polls and vote. I know they're going to get a say in all of this, but you do wonder. I mean, is somebody, I'll put my cards on the table, is somebody who's interviewed Mark Lynch. Mark Lynch, came in second place in that primary. I think it's obviously he's the better choice. He's an outspoken, unashamed Christian that I think would represent the state of South Carolina well. But what do I know? I'm just an Arkansan. I'm just over here in Arkansas. I'm not in South Carolina. But what do you guys think? I want to know what the chat thinks of this coronation, if you will, of Lindsey Graham's sister. I can't even remember her name right now off the top of my head. But anyway, we've got that. We'll talk about that a little later. Also, the continued fallout from President Trump's speech last week telling us what we already know, that the 2020 election was rigged. Although, I mean, I know he said that many, many times. He might not have come out and explicitly said that, but essentially exposing the Intel oligarchy as being complicit and helping China. It looks to me like there's an interesting theory out there that a lot of this investigation, a lot of these facts, there are some people saying that China was actually helping the current administration uncover what went on in 2020. That's very interesting. And here's the deal, though. You can't indict the People's Republic of China. You can't indict the Chinese Communist Party. You can't do that, but you can indict and actually imprison the deep state here, and we're still holding our breath, waiting on that to happen. So we're going to talk about that. Also, a follow-up on the Odyssey, and those of you who saw the movie or didn't see it, the reviews are in, and they are mixed. We'll talk about it. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
Paul Harrell program.
All right, folks. Thanks so much for being with us as always. We're broadcasting live from the state of Arkansas. If you can tell by my long-winded introduction, I'm flying solo today. I apologize. The thumbnail misleading. When it was created, I didn't know that both Rob and Eric were out today. And I understand that I think Rob will be in here on Wednesday, but I understand it's going to be a lot of solo shows this week, but we're trying to remedy that, and we're going to have, I think maybe some good news trying to remedy that in the future. That it's going to be very, very exciting. So definitely want to stay tuned for that. So anyway, I hope everybody had a great weekend. I hope everybody was able to relax a little bit. And don't get me wrong, we're also going to talk about this escalation in Iran and everything that's going on. We've got 2 American soldiers who are, dead. President Trump says probably 3 because I know 1 was missing. The United States is now, according to accounts, according to reports, hammering Iran. I'll say this, and you guys know I'm obviously not a fan of another war in the Middle East. You guys know this. But I think just generally speaking, it is very difficult for me to trust the reporting about wars that are happening thousands of miles away overseas. I mean, I think you definitely saw this with the coverage when it came to the Russia-Ukraine situation. Very, very difficult. Western media outlets. I don't trust media outlets telling me the truth about what's happening here domestically in my own country. There's a lot of people that I think need to recognize that you just have to take everything with a grain of salt about what it is that you're hearing. I'm not denying, by the way, that we have soldiers that have been killed. I'm not denying that at all. The fog of war is real, and I'm exhausted with it all, and I know many of you out there are too. And I don't know what the end game is. I have literally no idea what the end game is with this. I don't want to see American soldiers killed. I don't want to see a ground invasion. I was just looking at a map, the topography of Iran, and just what a daunting task this could be, the amount of casualties if we actually do decide to go in and put boots on the ground, which I think would be a terrible mistake, because I think it would end up getting a lot of American soldiers killed, and I don't want to see that. At the same time, we have our strategic petroleum reserves are low. We've got we're running out of crude oil while the Strait of Hormuz is in this question, and I don't know what breaks through this. I don't know what's going to change the cards, if you will. When this thing first kicked off, it kicked off right after the whole Venezuela thing and Maduro. And, we had all these reports about these Cuban mercenaries that were taken home in shoeboxes. And so at the time I thought, okay, is this kind of the beginning of rollout of some sort of next generation weaponry that we're going to see? And will that make this conflict in Iran, whether you support it or not, are we about to see a bunch of next gen weaponry that's going to decimate Iran? And at least at this point, I don't think that's the case in terms of, next-gen advanced weaponry, unless that's a card that just hasn't been played yet for some reason. I don't know. But I will say that I am continuing to pray for peace. That's what I'm doing. I'm praying for peace. I'm praying for cooler heads to prevail. And I'm praying that American soldiers are not killed in the process. So on that, I hope we can all agree on that. And I want to take your comments on a bunch of stuff. Yeah, okay. Well, so I did see this report, Sly 57. Iran and Peru had earthquakes yesterday, happening every day. I did see a lot of reports about earthquakes, and that did make me think. There are a lot of people that believe that technology exists. The technology exists to actually cause earthquakes and that sort of thing. Logue 23, Paul, how was your weekend? My weekend was pretty good, for the most part, pretty good. I've got sick family members. I think you guys know a couple of weeks ago I was talking to my dad, had back surgery, so I was asking for prayers for my father. He's recovering well, but now my mom has back issues now too. And then on my wife's side of the family, we've got people that had to have surgery last night because they fell and broke a hip. And then another one fell and broke ribs. It's actually been a crazy 2 weeks for me. So if you could just generally send up prayers, I would love that, just for my family, extended family to stay healthy, remain healthy, and recover from a lot of these things that are happening. It is that season of life where it just feels like everything is snowballing, and it's been difficult to kind of keep things compartmentalized. Things have kind of bled all over the place. So I appreciate that. Appreciate you guys sending up the prayer emojis. I really do. But let's get into first. Let's start with Ayanna Pressley. Okay, I know when it rains, it pours. It's the craziest. It's the craziest bit of circumstances right now. Craziest bit of circumstances to achieve right now. So let's get into it. Ayanna Pressley, real quick, because this was, to me, the thing that I just thought that, things happen. There are news stories that, to me, just have threads at the end of them that you really want to pull at. And again, have you ever seen Boys in the Hood? Want to see a dead body? Hey, y'all want to see a dead body? So this happened on Saturday. This news broke. Dead body found at Mattapan home owned by Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley's husband's Ayanna Pressley's husband at Boston Police. They opened a death investigation. So this is Mass Daily News. Never heard of them. Have heard of Town Hall. Their headline: Body found at home owned by Progressive Representative Ayanna Pressley's husband. Apparently, as of something may have changed, but as of today, or at least as of this broadcast, we don't know who the dead body is. We don't know who the person that is no longer alive is. It says they've opened an investigation after a dead body was discovered inside a $1.15 million home owned by Conan Harris. Conan Harris, the husband of Progressive Rep Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts. Officers were sent to Boston's Mattapan neighborhood around 2 p.m. on Saturday for an investigate a person call before discovering the body in the home. The homicide unit is handling the investigation. So it would appear that it's not some accident. It's probably not an elderly person that's died of natural causes if you have the homicide team investigating this. Harris purchased the now up-for-sale home in 2021 and has rented it out to tenants for several years. Harris's realtor told the Boston Globe that current tenants had been living at the home for a while. She called the death unfortunate but did not comment any further. And then you go to the financials. They've made a lot of money on the rent. According to neighbors, police have been active at the 7-bedroom home before. One neighbor told the Boston Globe that Boston police raided the residence in May before it was listed for sale. Presley's spokesperson told the Daily Mail that the Congresswoman extends her deepest condolences to the impacted family. Police continue to investigate the death and will share further details as they emerge. So that's all that we have right now, but it is interesting. It's just an ownership. We don't know if anything, if there's any sort of deeper connections. Obviously, you would expect that they at least the husband of Ayanna Pressley, it might be reasonable to say that he knows the tenants. Well, and they may have some property management company that's handling all this for them as well. So you don't really know exactly. But another member of the squad has made headlines, AOC. I guess you would say she would be the leader of it. She was in Memphis, Tennessee, which is not far from where this studio is. And she's out there stumping for Justin Pearson, a person who himself is famous for different accents depending on what audience is he talking to. You can go back and watch him as a young college guy, and he's very well-spoken, talking about how we need to work together. We need to come together, and we need to find common good. And, of course, now he... Sorry, I was about to go into the South Carolina plantation voice. I don't even know if I can do it, but now Justin Pearson's all about, he basically like Malcolm X, we got to fight the white man. Every chance we get, we got to fight the white man. And that's who AOC is stumping for. And it's just, Justin Pearson's the guy when they took Memphis's congressional seat from them, he was upset at the police for, he's a former state representative, or I guess he got kicked out, then he got reinstated, so he's a current Democrat state representative in the state house. And he also tries to do a really good Samuel L. Jackson impersonation, I think, when he talks, But here's AOC. She decided to weigh in on this, on not leaving the South behind. Now, this is the same woman, by the way, who was saying they needed to pull up to the South, which actually had both rednecks and blacks in the South being like, I don't think that's going to work up. That's not going to work out very well for you if you actually do that. Here is, I don't know, a la Hillary Clinton. I don't feel no ways tired. Here is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
We cannot afford to leave Tennessee behind. We cannot afford to leave Kentucky behind, Alabama behind, Mississippi behind, Georgia behind, South Carolina behind. We cannot afford to leave Tennessee behind. We cannot afford to leave Kentucky behind, Alabama behind, Mississippi behind, Georgia behind, South Carolina behind.
So that's the last. South Carolina behind. Oh, Lord, we can't afford to leave them behind. We can't afford it. South Carolina. Oh, South Carolina, we can't afford to leave you behind. Yeah, she doesn't talk like that. We all know that she doesn't talk like this. But I mean, you can do this. This is like a classic double standard rule that the Democrat Party if you're talking to a predominantly black audience, you're allowed to change the way you talk. You're allowed to condescend. And let me just be real. That's exactly what this is. You are allowed to condescend to them, to come down from your high horse, in this case, Washington, D.C., more specifically, New York, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, whatever, she's from the Bronx or wherever she's from, says we got to pull up on the South, to condescend, and it's totally acceptable to start talking like a black person when you don't talk like that at all, and you are also not black, if you're a Democrat talking to a predominantly black audience. And we've seen this. I mean, we saw Kamala Harris do it as well. Kamala Harris doesn't talk like a black woman, but she did when she was campaigning, talking to predominantly black audiences. I don't know. It's really weird. It just shows you how there's got to be some psychological phenomenon behind it, like some way to describe it where they feel the need to do this. Does it expose them as being, not genuine? Yeah, it certainly does. I think just from a performance standpoint, it exposes them as just being actors on a stage, or that's what they really think of themselves. They're actors on a stage, and the moment, and it's like, or maybe these Democrats have some sort of weird, sick fantasy where they actually, wish that they were black themselves, or I don't know, they've seen movies where, black people give speeches. I don't even know, nothing comes to mind. Or maybe they love Martin Luther. They go to listen to Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech, and they just there's something about it. There's something about the atmosphere, the environment. They've always wanted to be a black person themselves and to be able to give a rousing speech in a black dialect. I really don't know. I don't know. But they get up there and something changes. The energy changes, and all of a sudden their accent changes to fit in some sort of weird political chameleon, orator. I don't know. It just, something changes, and they change. They change, and nobody gets offended by it. That's the other thing. The audience doesn't get offended by it. They just cheer it on.
We cannot afford to leave Tennessee behind. We cannot afford to leave Kentucky behind, Alabama behind, Mississippi behind, Georgia behind, South Carolina behind.
Yeah, she doesn't talk like that. But boy, she got carried away, though. Oh, yeah, Greenwald. I'll admit, having struggled to find a coherence or consistency in liberal rules of identity politics, but even given this complexity, I will never understand why AOC has license to use a fake black preacher accent when speaking to black audiences. Is this the first time she's done this, or is there are there other examples? Because obviously I remember Clinton, obviously I remember Harris. I remember, Joe Biden, will put y'all back in chains if the Republicans win. I remember all of that. But I don't know if she's done it before. But anyway, it's very pathetic. It's incredibly pathetic, for sure. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. Sound off in the chat. Yeah, she's from New York. Amy 1019, she's from New York. Let's see. Carol says she's done the Puerto Rican accent. Yeah, I mean, right? Isn't that kind of her ethnicity? I mean, she obviously can talk in a Spanish accent or whatever, or a Latin accent, not a Spanish accent, a Latin accent. Yeah, wasn't this woman the goofy bartender that was elected as a joke? Yes. Peaches. Is Peaches, do you live in South Carolina or do you live in Tennessee? Peaches. She's wrong because we don't talk like that here. Hazel Kitty 57. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was born in the Bronx but moved to Yorktown Heights in Westchester County, New York, when she was around 5 years old. Right, so that's a much nicer area to grow up in. Sly 57 says, AOC does all the accents. She's a linguist. Yeah. But could you appreciate it even more, if she was like, I mean, you wouldn't hold it against her. At least she's from New York. So if she was like, had a New York accent, which I'm not even going to attempt to do, saying, we can't leave Tennessee behind. But let's actually talk about this for a second. And I'll reiterate what I said on Friday, which is essentially, they can get mad all they want that Republicans are finally going to apportion themselves correctly without the Supreme Court's forced censure of southern states. I mean, the status quo for my entire life up until this year, up until the Supreme Court decision that ended the gerrymandering of the South, the status quo has been that we have to fight the left in this country, or fight the Democrats in this country. And I know that's that paradigm that's, kind of notches at this point. But we have to fight the Dems because, with one hand behind our back, because of the Civil War. Because the Civil War was fought and the South lost the Civil War, we can't apportion our states the way we want to. We have to allow for districts solely based on the color of your skin. That's been the status quo up until this year. And now that the Supreme Court, said what they said, states have rushed to fix this problem, mainly because the idea of living under Democrat rule again in the last 2 years of the Trump presidency is alarming, and people don't want to do that. I mean, that's the main reason. There will be other states that I think will do this, when they get the next bite at the apple. Some of them obviously were controlled by the institutional left, even though they were Republican states, which is why not all of the states, Georgia, they're going to drag their feet with this, that sort of thing. But it's going to happen eventually, and it is going to make a 60-40 state look like New England. There's plenty of 60-40 states in New England that are totally blue. There's no Republican representation. There's going to be 60-40, 70-30 states in the South that are going to be totally red, and there's nothing wrong with that, because what is attempted to being done here is the last gasp effort. It is a last gasp effort to try to solve this within the confines of the system, because we are in the midst of a cold civil war. People, good people everywhere, do not want bloodshed. They do not want a cold civil war to bubble up over into a hot civil war. Good grief. Can you imagine if that were to happen, what the intel oligarchy would do with that? They would use every bit of it to usher in full-blown communism, which is the plan if they ever get back into power, not the intel oligarchy. Intel oligarchy is still very much in power, in my opinion. And the fact that, the reason that I believe that the intel oligarchy has still not been brought to heel in Trump 2.0 is because ABC and NBC refused to air his address last week. Those are intelligence mouthpieces, and if the intel community had been brought to heel, they would have carried his address, 100%. So, I mean, it is what it is. And every day that these people are continuing to walk free with no accountability, every day that this happens, it just confirms what many people fear, that we are actually slaves, and that we have voted for all of this change for the last 10 years. We've had elections stolen. We've had, a bioweapon virus deployed against the entire planet that came from China, but was actually, financed, if not developed within our own borders, and then exported to China and then unleashed on the world. It reads like a movie. As a matter of fact, there's a really good tweet out there that I'm gonna get to later today that kind of encapsulates everything that we've been through. And yet, we still have the same intel oligarch overlords that are walking free and planning what they're going to do to all of us once they have a clearer path to power again. This is a huge problem that must be addressed. I wish Eric were here to talk me off the ledge, because he's much more of a realist and he doesn't think that any of that's ever going to happen. Mark Wayne Mullen is out there saying, well, we're going to try criminal, but if that doesn't work, we'll just make sure they can never serve in the government again. Well, that only works if you maintain control of the government forever. Sorry, I'm reading some of your comments here. We've got Sophie 1916. We need to arrest immediately. These Democrats have broken so many of our laws. And I think you can reliably just call them communists at this point. And because that's what much of the DOJ and the FBI are filled with. Even though there's been cleaning house, I'll admit that. There have been people that have been let go and fired and everything else, but there are still plenty of people within this intelligence oligarchy. They've been recruiting communists for the last 50 years. And you see it, you know it. That's the problem, is that our deep state is full of people that are communists that actually resent the majority of the country that voted for Trump, or wants secure borders, or wants mass deportations, or wants us to focus on the issues here domestically and not constantly being, pulled into these geopolitical wars. Here is this next story. So this is interesting. So Pete Santilli has an interesting theory on all this. I'm going to try to paint this as broad as I can, try to find the different takes on what we actually saw last week with President Trump's speech. Okay. Let me make sure I get all of this out correctly here. So back on the 18th, Pete Santilli, and I understand he used to occupy this time slot on LFA TV, he says this, that President Trump is not punishing China because China was assisting the U.S. investigations. Interesting theory, meaning the investigations that exposed what was disclosed, or at least part of what was disclosed last week. He goes on, he says, the source of information on the tens of thousands of licenses and fake Joe Biden ballots came from a PRC government official, he says. In the emails released by Chuck Grassley in July of 2025, Albany FBI office indicated that their source regarding the fake licenses and ballots was an unidentified PRC government official. So this is not his opinion, folks. Let me backtrack. This is he's getting this from official government records. The DMC acting DRO Albany also indicated he was obtaining approval from the OGC, Office of General Counsel, and the legal attaché, Beijing, prior to dissemination regarding Nikki Flores recalling the IIR Intelligence Information Report. Nikki Flores is the FBI official who said, I'm running a shadow government. Then he asked Dan Bongino to fact check. Then he says this would be a solid reason why Donald Trump is not sanctioning China by invoking Executive Order 13848. The PRC was part of the investigation. So this is claiming, and there are documents that back up this theory, that you've actually got the current government of China exposing our own deep state. I don't know if that's the correct conclusion, but you can certainly make the argument. Now, he tags a bunch of people. One of the people he tags here is Patrick Byrne. And Patrick Byrne says, well, hang on, let's go back to another Pete Santilli post. So Pete Santilli then reshares what I just read and says this: the highest level source within the administration just informed me that this is the biggest open source news story I've ever broken. He says he's been told you're over the target. Based on my own analysis with a nod from above, Iran and China are foreign proxies of the deep state, and the deep state has been using their clandestine resources in each country to take down the United States. President Trump has likely been relying upon foreign partners as part of the investigation. That would be huge if true. The idea that there's not, I mean, I've heard, let's just talk with Iran first. Let's just take Iran. The idea that Iran has been very useful to the status quo when it comes to the financial system, the city of London. I have heard all of this. I have heard that there are a lot of bankers that really liked the status quo with Iran being in its current position. I've heard that before. I don't think it's worth thousands of U.S. casualties, but I am not naive into saying that war is a political tool, okay? War is a political tool, right? And while I am not a supporter of another war in the Middle East, and you guys know that, I've been honest with you about that. That's one of the reasons, main reasons I voted for Trump, is I thought this would not happen, okay? I am wrong about that. I hope we don't do ground troops in another 30-year war, okay? That now I'm like, just, it's like some sort of political triage in your mind where you're just hoping and praying, hey, that this doesn't end up like the last time. But I'm also not naive to say that when you do have a war, that is literally the definition of a crisis, and there's a lot of other things that can change as a result of that. Maybe things, economic relationships and things that, I'm not privy to, not informed on, right? So I can understand that. I certainly understand the idea, and I've heard the theory before that, let's say, North Korea, one of the reasons they were so upset in Trump 1.0 when he actually went and shook Kim Jong-un's hand and crossed the border into North Korea, was to try to actually Johnny sweep the legs the intel oligarchy, the international intel oligarchy that loved to use North Korea as essentially a gun held to the head of the rest of the world. So you always are manufacturing the next threat, the next military industrial complex, the next military contractor, the next, we got to have the next war, right? Very 1984 motivations here. So I understand that too. And I don't exactly know what I don't know. And again, this also comes from just a high level of skepticism when it comes to what we're being told about foreign conflicts. We can't even believe our own press when it comes to what's going on here domestically. I mean, there's just some guy that just set fire to an immigration court here in America, poured a bunch of gasoline down the steps, anti-ICE guy, set it on fire, and the mainstream media will probably say that it was just some fireworks. Some guy set off fireworks instead of deliberately throwing, he's on video, literally pouring a gallon or, a big bucket of gas all down the steps and trying to set the building on fire. So, anyway. So that's what he said. He says he's been told that he's over the target, which got Patrick Byrne's attention. And so he says, crazy as it sounds, I think Peter's roughly correct. I don't know who is a proxy of whom, but our deep state and China are definitely involved in some heavy petting. This comes to this idea that our governments are not monolithic. And I would even say historically, probably, very early, it's most governments are not. You have competing power structures within a government. One power structure is not as powerful as the existing power structure, so you become a traitor, for lack of a better word, and you coordinate with other traitors in other countries, or maybe a country that is monolithic. And I would venture a guess that the communist country of China is more monolithic than ours, But even that, there are obviously other forces. Anybody ever see The Death of Stalin with Steve Buscemi? Hilarious movie, by the way. Not sure how historically accurate it is, but, these communists are just depraved humanists that want to dominate others and use political power to do it, and that also means the people in their own party, they are rabid dogs and all they want is power. So that's an interesting take. Now, that brings me, so that's one side of things, and we'll get to Lindsey Graham's daughter here, or Lindsey Graham's sister here in a minute. That's one side of things, and then we get to this. And throughout the week, I warned you, look, John Solomon is the guy kind of championing and leading these new documents that are being released. He's just the news guy. He's Sean Hannity's guy. And there's a lot of people out there that are like, hey, I don't really trust John Solomon anymore because John Solomon just seems to always tell you that arrests are coming and they never come. Excuse me. Or that accountability is coming and it never actually comes. And so at this point, I am willing to entertain all of this because, I've been around. You guys have been around. I've read the stories. I've read the reports. And it does start to feel like pretty much a limited hangout, right? I'm not saying that justthenews.com can't do any good or doesn't have good reporting necessarily. I've used that site. We were using it the other day. But people are getting a little exhausted of John Solomon because people are starting to wonder, hey, is this guy actually a tool of the intelligence agencies? Telling us a little bit about the corruption, but we're not actually getting the full picture. So Kyle Seraphin says, quote, perp walks possible. This is a clip of John Solomon and talk radio host Blaze founder Glenn Beck.
I thought that there were two things that came out. One, sure, that this is really important, this voter data, and they could just use it for algorithms to shape you on how you're going to vote. All the things you just said, and shape you as well. And two, Psyops. And this might have been a bigger thing, the cover-up from our own intelligence agencies. I mean, John, this is what happened in Vietnam to some degree. It's what happened with Iran-Contra in a way where everybody said, well, no, the president knew. Here we know the president didn't know. And It was a problem every time something like this has happened. And I think this is the most important violation of this. Them keeping information vital from the president of the United States. I think, is there anything here that is going to be so indisputable that you'll see an actual perp walk?
Yes, I do. I think it's possible. I think you'll see terminations first, right? And so the CIA is now reviewing everyone that was involved with a presidential daily briefing for which this information was withheld. And you're seeing things here that you're showing up on screen. It's so important. They basically are talking about deliberately massaging President Trump's database so he won't see the Chinese election interference stuff. There are people watching this that are pros in the intelligence community. They're not trying to cover it up, and they're writing back to this like, it boggles the mind that we're going to keep this from the president. Another FBI person who kept pulling back China intelligence interference reports and not letting the community see them so they can be investigated, wrote in her own text messages to her colleague, I'm running a shadow government. I'm running a shadow government to keep the president and others from learning about this. It is remarkable when you hear that those sort of text messages, what was going on. Other people writing, this is clearly politics. We should be telling the president. An NSA guy said, I'm alarmed that we're not telling the president, but I was too weak to stand up and object in the meeting. This was one of the widest secrets in the intelligence community, that some intelligence analysts used their power to keep the president in the dark about a 220 million voter data breach, about the vulnerability of machines in elections, about Venezuela's successful hack of a voter machine in a controlled environment, not in an election, but in a laboratory setting. All of those things are things that are actionable that a president and a Congress needs to know in real time. And we had analysts.
See, we want more than that too, because I mean, if you're familiar at all with Emerald Robinson's reporting that brings up Venezuela, and that software that's able to do that is the same software that's in our elections, and her story about Elon Musk and how 2024 was saved. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it's certainly a compelling story and a compelling narrative. I'm actually shocked that we even got that Venezuela was even referenced in these documents, and I consider that a net positive. But I think that the fuller picture is still missing, because you notice what Solomon says here. He says it didn't actually happen in a Venezuela election, but it happened in a lab to demonstrate that it could happen. And it's like, okay, are we afraid to show that Venezuelan elections are rigged? Are we not even going to show you that Venezuelan elections were rigged with their own software? Like, can we get documents that just prove that happened? We're not even talking about our own country. So we need the documents that show that all electronic voting machines are compromised, and we need a broader narrative. We need to advance a broader narrative that says, in the age of AI, it makes literally no sense at all to allow machines to pick who our leaders will be, because you cannot trust them. You cannot trust the third-party source code. You cannot, which is essentially, we can't see it. We're not allowed to see it, which is essentially privatizing our elections that are supposed to be run by government officials who can be held accountable and put in jail. I also think this whole Nikki Flores thing, like, this girl should have been arrested the night of the speech, but she's not. And then so now we're supposed to wait on investigations to take place. Now that it's out there, now the DOJ is going to investigate when they should have been investigating the last 2 years. And then you start to wonder, how does somebody like a Nikki Flores get arrested, and what else does she know? What I mean by that is, if she were arrested and prosecuted, is there anybody in the administration or anybody in the Intel oligarchy community that are going to be very worried about what else she may say, who she may roll on, who she may flip on? Because, I mean, we're to the point where they all know so much. If one goes down, they've engineered the system to where one person can't go down. Or it'll be very difficult, I suspect very difficult for just one person to go down without pointing fingers and saying, well, and I'm just using this as an example. James Comey made me do it. Obama told me to do it. James Clapper told me to do it. You know what I mean? And that's why you have to have brave men with courage to say, I don't care if the whole system collapses, we're going to get justice. And I think we're to the point where, and there's a lot I don't know. I mean, I'm just a person with a talk show, right? I get it. But we have to be able to process the information that we do have. But so, yeah, that's kind of why I'm skeptical, right? Like, I wanted the disclosures, I feel like, to be more. I wanted them to, in a perfect world, in an ideal world, confirm that not just that the voting machines are vulnerable, but that they switched votes, right? And I want people to go to jail for that. So it feels very much like a limited hangout. Here's a few of your comments. Let's see. Peer Year Out says, this is exactly what they said it was, fireworks. Are you serious? They actually said that the ICE facility being set on fire was fireworks? Okay. Wow. I've got to go look that up. That's insane. I had a few of your... Okay, so, all right, so a few of your comments. I'm going way up. I'm going like 25 comments up, okay, from when I started this little segment on John Solomon. We've got Seagow 70 says, but he's working in the admin, Solomon. Then John Yoder says, I don't want arrests, I want hangings. We've got Amy 1019 says, I've always thought John Solomon was off. And then we've got B-Hops that says, I like John Solomon better than Kyle Seraphin. I know. Look, I pull the news from wherever. I get it. Some people may not like Seraphin. I find what he says to be interesting. I want to listen to as many people as I possibly can. But I get it. We've got other people saying it's treason. B-Hop says the Venezuela voting machine angle is definitely real. I think so too. I mean, the only thing that makes me nervous about it, I've listened to Emerald Robinson's coverage of this, and I know Patrick Burns is a big part of that, and he admits, that he was a spook. It was a CIA. He has a whole story about how the FBI approached him to set up Hillary Clinton, and then of course they didn't do anything with the information they got because they wanted blackmail. That's the same thing that I think the FBI was doing with Gavin Newsom. Embedding people, spying on them. They weren't going to prosecute Gavin Newsom. They just wanted dirt on him so that if he's the future president, they can control him. This is the problem. This is the problem. This is why they framed Trump for treason, because arguably you say that, well, we don't have anything on him that's going to keep him from getting elected, so we'll just frame him for treason and blame Russia. So anyway, it's the whole thing is insane. Machine X, Paul Harrell for president 2028. No, but I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you guys. Let me see here. What else do we have? I'm sorry. I don't have Rob here it's like drinking out of a fire hose. So more on this John Solomon angle. So then Michael Flynn Jr., I mean, there are people that are just trying to anathematize. And I'm never one to say just quit listening to anybody. Like I back at the height of the Iran war, where there's this divide in the Republican Party, and we had a new person every day that we were no longer supposed to listen to, even though they may have a body of work that used to be effective and useful in fighting the left. Right now, we're all at war with one another. Now we're all just. I don't want to play that. I'm sorry. Maybe you say that that's me sitting on the fence, but I look at the news as a tapestry. I look at these voices and these influencers, which I am not really one. I mean, I'm thankful to be here on LFA, but I look at it as a tapestry, and you can kind of look and see what is actually going on, and the different takes I find are useful, even the ones I disagree with, because the Republican Party as it stands now is a coalition. The coalition that the country as a whole maybe used to be 50, 60 years ago. And the Democrat Party is largely the monolith. And then the debate to be had now over America is within the Republican Party. And we all have different rankings of our issues. But anyway, Michael Flynn Jr. says, stop listening to John Solomon. He's the biggest indictments are coming boy who cried wolf in the media game. Now, I'm not going to stop listening to John Solomon, but I also will acknowledge, as somebody who's followed his work and really thought that John Durham was going to get the job done, yeah, it's a fair criticism of him, and it's a reason to at least be skeptical and take what he says with a grain of salt. So, Logue23, Paul, we love you on LFA TV. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad to be here. I'm privileged to be here. Now, on this same subject of accountability, then we have Mark Wayne Mullen, who's asked by Lindell TV's Kara Castronova if there will be accountability. Now, this we meant to get to this on Friday, and we failed to. That's my fault. I ran out of time. Probably because I wanted to make fun of Rob, and I played the clip of him listening to the sword. Listening to my new sword here, my new set piece over here. Hang on, let me see. The reason we ran out of time is because I'm taking time to vamp like this. My new set piece over here, my sword, you see, right here. I took time to make fun of Rob for listening to it like a seashell. When I said, can you hear it or listen or whatever, I was talking about the sound that it makes when you unsheathe it. But anyway, so I didn't have time to get to this. Here is Mark Wayne Mullen.
Harrell from Lindell TV, thank you so much for doing this briefing today. Is there any analysis on what went wrong with CISA in 2020 and the premature analysis that it was the most safe and secure election? It's now being revealed that obviously it was not. Will Chris Krebs or anybody that was involved in that premature analysis be held accountable?
Everybody that purposely misled the American people, abused their power and their authority, and decided not to continue doing their job will be held accountable. What does that accountability look like? I don't know. Is it criminal? We'll pursue criminal charges. If it is not criminal, we'll make sure you never work for the federal government again and you never have the ability to have a clearance again.
All right, chat, what do you think of that answer? If it's criminal, we'll do it. If it's not criminal, we'll just fire them. Right now, if you were to take a guess, how many people are going to be fired and how many people are going to be criminally prosecuted? And again, based on what I told you earlier about how if you go after one of these people, if you just go after one of these people criminally, will they roll? Will they flip? And that's why there's such an allergy to this, because the whole system is so incredibly corrupt. And it's not impartial justice. It's capricious. It's just men that are trying to protect themselves. And then if you do go after somebody criminally, there's enough people who are career communists underneath it that'll sabotage it. I mean, we saw that with the first James Comey indictment, where they were going to let the statute of limitations expire, and then Trump, puts Lindsey Halligan in there to go ahead and file the charges, but the judge comes back and says, and what apparently in the indictment there was a poison pill in there anyway, and the whole thing falls apart, and it's about to fall. The whole 8647 is going to fall apart too. Still waiting on this grand jury out of Florida to get their act together. With a whole overarching conspiracy theory. And maybe it happens. And boy, if it does, I will be singing the praises of the DOJ, the administration. But now we're basically supposed to put our faith in Todd Blanche, who has a Democrat past. And I was surprised at the SPLC. I mean, look, it's a mixed bag. I was surprised that the SPLC indictment came down. I was surprised at that, exposing the SPLC as just really an intelligence oligarchy vehicle to create false flags, to frame political opponents as being racist and white supremacists, and setting up this idea that if you barbecue, shoot fireworks on the 4th of July, you are a white supremacist nationalist and you're a threat to the country. Like, that's... Do you own an American flag? Do you own an American flag T-shirt? Then you're a threat to the country. Do you love the American Revolution? Are you a student of history? I mean, they've even got stuff talking about Lord of the Rings. That's where my sword is from, by the way. This is a Lord of the Rings replica sword of Aragorn's sword. They've even got that. People that really like Lord of the Rings may be a national security threat. So, I mean, I was surprised at the SPLC indictment. I think they should look into more groups, do it as do the same thing. But like the ADL, for example. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna hold my breath. And I'm sorry, I'm not blackpilling. I'm still praying that the light exposes the darkness. And I know the Lord is in control of all of this. Even our corrupt government officials that think that they're going to lay nets for their enemies, it's very easy for them to lay those nets and then fall into those same nets, fall into the same traps they laid for the American people or the good guys who are still there. I mean, there was evidence of a good person in the intel oligarchy. I'll say community. I'll say intel community. If you're good, you're part of the intel community. If you're bad, you're part of the intel oligarchy. But there was at least one email in the documents that were disclosed of somebody saying, they're not letting me tell the truth. Why should I even do this job anymore? I should just go home. They're wanting me to not tell the truth about China's influence and the intelligence that we have because they're afraid that somebody will misuse it, and that somebody they're afraid would, quote, misuse it is President Trump. Because, again, they really are just, they don't want to pledge allegiance to the country, the Constitution, specifically the commander-in-chief, if the commander-in-chief is somebody that they believe they're better than, they're smarter than. And that's because our government has been infiltrated with communists who I believe fundamentally, like at their core, at the core of their communist ideas, whether they are subconscious or overt, like whether or not they've actually even decided what it is they believe, they're functional communists. But the baseline, and this is just my opinion, my intuition, all of their decisions, all of their beliefs, their thoughts, comes from a baseline of a hatred of Christians. A baseline of a hatred of Bible-believing Christians, which, in this day and age, if you're a Christian and you believe the Bible, you would be considered a fundamentalist at this point. And there's a Venn diagram somewhere where, we don't agree on everything. There's certain doctrines that maybe we don't agree this, but we agree on the basics that there is a God, we're not him, and Jesus Christ died for the sins, died for sinners. And the only way to pay for your sins is faith in Christ. And it is what comes out of that, what the implications of that, of how we should live, what our laws should be, the fact that there is a good and evil. I believe in many of these people, the basis of their communism and their hatred of the country is their hatred of God. Let me check the chat out. I asked you guys questions about what you thought about Mark Wayne Mullins' answer. X Machine, which sword is it? It looks like the sword that cut the ring. Yes. This is the reforged version, right? Not the original. Andrewill is the name of the sword. But that is correct, X Machine. That is correct. Let me see here. What else do we got? Not holding my breath. Carl Benji, not holding my breath. Yep. We have to pass it before we know what's in it. Brad Strat, or Bad Strat. Yeah, we remember that. Pull their clearances. Old Dog 1959. Pull their clearances. Yes. That would be just a bare minimum. You're under investigation. We were pulling your clearance. Charges are forthcoming. They should all be fired. I agree. They should all be fired. But do you even think that's going to happen? Like, out of those two options, mass arrests or even firings, will we even get the firings? Because he says, Mark Wayne Mullins says, we're going to go after them. If they're criminals, we'll do the criminal thing. If not, we'll make sure they never work in the government again. That's just not good enough. I'm sorry, that not working in the government again isn't good enough, because the next Democrat president is just going to rehire all these people. Nikki Flores went to work for Microsoft. Okay? She's just a placeholder. She's got a nice paying job, and she will go back into government when it's safe. That's the problem. We should charge these people and make them flee the country. That would even be better. Hang on, I got some more text about my sword here. Collectibles, yeah. I actually think X Machine. I actually think, yeah. I'm going to be collecting all of these now, like as many as I can. My whole studio is going to be peppered with these things when it's all said and done. I'm just going to do it. I got this for my birthday, and I've been super happy with it. And even though it's just something that just sits there, but yeah, there's all kinds of other swords, from the Lord of the Rings epic that now I am going to collect. It's a thing that's got to happen now. For sure. Darlene writes, I will believe it when I see it. The arrests, not trying to be negative, but yeah, I know that's where I'm at with it. X Machine says the sword got stomped on by Lord Sauron when they were fighting them on Mount Doom in the end of the First Age over 3,000 years before the Fellowship of the Ring. Yes, you. He says he's a nerd. Yeah. Yep. Hey, man, it's one nerd to another. I get on board with that. I think about Lord of the Rings all the time. For those of you that don't know, we watch the movies once a year, only once a year. But we do watch them once a year in the month of December. So it's weird to me, but yeah, in December I celebrate the birth of Christ, right? But there's something about it. It's because of my age. I'm 42 years old. So when these movies came out in the early 2000s, I was in high school and in college, okay? And if you'll remember, they came out every Christmas, okay? So they came out in the month of December, right? Somewhere in there. So I'm pretty sure I was in high school. It was December, went and saw it. Amazing. Well, the next year I was in college, and I guess maybe a month or two before the next movie came out, Two Towers, The Fellowship of the Ring was released on DVD. So what did you do? Well, you waited and you watched it in December. You watched Fellowship, and then you went to the theater to immediately watch Two Towers. And the same thing happened. Two Towers comes out October, November of the next year, and then the third movie, Return of the King. And so I had, 3 years in a row, every December, watching the movies. And so then after the third one came out, Return of the King, the cycle repeats. It gets released the same year, and then I watched it in December, and then it just stuck. And then I met my wife, and we started this family tradition, right? Girlfriend transitions to fiance, transitions to wife, and we've kept it alive to where, like, now members of our in years past, like members of our extended family that are off, like we would even have screenings together remotely, where we're starting now, and just have a big time with it. So anyway, sorry to tell you too much personal information that may be boring to you guys, but W. Wilson, 1964. LOL, Paul, you're just a year older than my son. Yeah, I am. 42. Just turned 42. X Machine says, I've got a Middle-earth scroll tacked up on my wall. It's canvas. You know what? There's one company out there that actually makes maps of the state, maps of the different states of America, but does it in the Tolkien art style. And I've got one of Arkansas that I actually gave to my sister for a present because she lives in Texas and, wanted a reminder of home. And it's really detailed. Like, they don't just whoever does these maps, they really do a good job of getting the topography of the map right. Arkansas is a unique state. We have a lot of Delta farmland, and then we get the Ozark Mountains, and it's just really a unique state when it comes to that. Even where I live on Crowley's Ridge is just like a little sliver of rolling hill. Anyway, they got all of that right, but it was all in that Tolkien map artwork. And so if you wanted to get one of those of your state, if you're a patriot, which is just a patrios of your father, and you've been in your state, for generations, you may want to look into that. There's a company that does that. I don't even know what they are, but it's really cool. Yeah, X Machine says, I'll see if you can find a Florida version. I promise you it exists, and it's just really, really a neat thing. All right, I'm going to reset here, and we're going to take a break. I've got a lot more to get to. I'm not even through a fourth of the tabs that I have pulled for today. But stick with us here on LFA TV. We're going to talk about Lindsey Graham's sister. She's now in the race now. She wants to be the senator for the next 6 years for South Carolina. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like this is kind of getting to more like a monarchy situation where it's the right thing to do, South Carolina? You need to vote for her because she's of the bloodline of Lindsey Graham. I just find this whole thing to be disturbing, and I know President Trump endorsed her, and I don't really care. I just find it to be odd. But that's also because I know Mark Lynch, and I know he's a man of character and a good Christian man, and I think he would be great in the United States Senate because I think we need more fundamentalist Christians in government. So those are my cards, right? But we'll talk about that and get your opinions on that when we come back. This is the Paul Harrell Program, and we'll be back in a moment.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Why is Red Vibe different? What sets it apart? What sets us apart from the standard red light panels? This is a medical grade device, and what that means is the red light bulbs and the near infrared bulbs have very specific wavelengths. If you think about the wavelength as the medicine, the 635, the 670, the 810, the 850, those were specifically chosen because those are the most powerful effectors of the cells. So those specific wavelengths, when they get into our body, when they affect our tissue, they spike energy production, they help with nerve pain control, they increase stem cell counts. There's very specific mechanisms that those specific wavelengths work at, and that's the medicine. So if you think of, say, medicine as an Advil or a specific steroid or a blood pressure medication, the wavelength is the medication. The other part of that, whenever you take a medication, is dose. Right? So you have the medication. So if you take 1 milligram of Advil, and the average dose of an Advil is 200 milligrams to 800 milligrams, it's not going to work. That doesn't mean the medicine's bad. It just means you didn't take enough. Right? And so even if you have the right wavelengths, first you have to have the right medicine, and then you have to have the right dose. And to have the right dose, you have, in light therapy, you have to have enough energy. So you have to have a powerful bulb. The LED bulbs, or light emitting diodes, have a specific wavelength, and that wavelength is the medicine. And the wavelengths that have been studied and published on that are the most powerful in affecting healing and the changes that we want to see with our bodies and our health are the 635 wavelength, the 670, 810 nanometer wavelength, and 850 nanometer wavelength. Those are all going to affect the mitochondria, the cytochrome C oxidase, and affect those powerful long-term changes and affect that downstream pathways. And that's what you get with Red Vibe devices. The highest efficacy, the best wavelengths, concentrated to help your health.
My name is John, and this is my beautiful wife, Lori, and this is our Star Wars Ewok. His name is Scout, and we have Scout for about 11 years now, and we started noticing about 3 years ago, he started slowing down. He was unable to jump on the bed. He was kind of a little bit grumpier, and when my daughters, Macy and Mariah, would take him on walks, he would walk for about 30 yards, and then he'd lay down, and they'd carry him the rest of the way. So I heard about Pet Club 24/7 and about the products from a gentleman that I really trust and share a friendship with. And he mentioned to me that they have products that are going to help him with his arthritis, help him build his immune system. And I said, okay, no problem. Let's try them out. And I kid you guys not, within about 2 to 3 days, we started noticing a little difference. And then we took Scout on a walk probably about a week after we started using the products, the mush puppies, and he would walk the entire way. He would walk at least a mile, and it's just been completely amazing. He's a new dog. He's 11 years old, which is around 80 years in dog years, and he's just happy. He's more energetic. He's not the grumpy old man he used to be, and we're just so thankful. And it was perfect timing because we lost our boxer Yankee about 1.5 years ago, and it was really hard on us. So I'm so thankful for Pet Club 24/7 for the products that they offer. Imagine if you could have your best friend around one more day or one more week or even one more year. I'm so blessed and thankful that we were able to find this company and find these products for Scout. So thank you guys. Give it a shot. We appreciate you. God bless everyone.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust to your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
Now for the lowest price ever. Kings, $19.98. Queens, only $18.98. And Giza Dream Bed Sheets, the best sheets in history, for as low as $29.98. Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you. What a concept. Now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But that's not all. Order right now and we'll ship your order absolutely free.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, folks, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show. We're broadcasting from the state of Arkansas on LFA TV as well as over on YouTube. And if you're over on YouTube, we would appreciate it if you would go to the Paul Harrell Program YouTube page and like the video. That really helps the algorithm. But also subscribe to the channel. Click the little bell to receive notifications. Do all the things. If you're watching over on the Rumble, LFA Rumble, please share the video out, right? And make sure that you subscribe to LFA TV on Rumble as well. Had some exciting news last week. It's exciting for me because it's something that I'm very passionate about, and that's the fact that I'm, by the way, now on the board of this newly launched nonprofit organization called Healing Veterans Project. You can go to healingveteransproject.us. That's healingveteransproject.us. This is it's something I'm very excited about. I mean, because you guys hear me talk all the time about the life-enhancing, I think life-healing powers of red light therapy. But did you know that there are veterans out there right now that have been prescribed this technology and they can't get it because the VA will not pay for it? Even though they've been prescribed this technology by a doctor, they will not pay for it. The VA will prescribe them opioids. The VA will prescribe them any sort of traditional Western medicine that is based on the pharmaceutical industry, the medical industrial complex, but they won't give them red light therapy, even though doctors have prescribed it. And that's where the Healing Veterans Project comes in. They deploy medical-grade photobiomodulation light therapy directly into the homes of our veterans at absolutely no cost to them. Your support funds the essential healing units that are not covered by insurance, and that provides a path to wellness for those who have given the most. Our veterans, lighting the path to wellness, and you need to check it out. And I would just encourage all of you out there. This would help. This is going to help veterans in a huge way, and it's simple. It's simple. The mission is simple. The mission is not we're going to do all of these things for veterans, and I know there's a lot of needs, but these that are out there. It's a very simple nonprofit. It's a very simple charitable act. If you believe in red light therapy, maybe you don't. Maybe you should try it yourself. I believe in it. I have one. I use it. It's incredible. And it sounds like it does. It sounds too good to be true. But if you go look up the benefits of this stuff, it's scientifically proven. It's just, for some reason, it's considered Eastern medicine. And honestly, I have kind of done some research on this, and a lot of this also comes from a guy by the name of Dr. Jack Cruz, who's been on a lot of different podcasts, the Danny Jones podcast and everything else, and he's a really smart guy, very, very know-it-all, but very smart guy, and he is a neurosurgeon and also like a biophysicist. That's the difference. So much of our Western medicine is just based on biochemistry, but not biophysics. And I think that's where the frequency of red light, near-infrared light, what it does to your mitochondria, the biophysics side of things is what we've lost because you don't get people hooked on your funding stream. You don't get it's easier with the biochemistry to just give them a pill instead of something that's actually going to physically change your body for the better. And that's where red light therapy comes in. So it's Healing Veterans Project. All you got to do is go over here to the website, which is healingveteransproject.us. Click the donate button, and then you see it right here. You can do a one-time donation, or you can go monthly, quarterly, annual, whatever you want to do. But, folks, it's a good cause, and you're going to hear me talk about Healing Veterans Project for a very long time because it's something I'm passionate about, and I know it's something that will actually help make veterans better. So anyway, check it out, healingveteransproject.us. All right, a few more things before we get to the Lindsey Graham situation and his sister, throwing her hat in the ring to be the senator for the next 6 years. A few more slides that I have here concerning the intelligence community covering up China's involvement in election hacking, manipulation, vulnerability, whatever you want to call it. John Harrell says the newly declassified documents give new context to an old Trump tweet from December of 2020 about the Solar Winds hack. Do you guys remember when the Solar Wind company was hacked? Trump criticized the media for immediately blaming Russia while ignoring for financial reasons the possibility that China was responsible, a scenario reflected in the newly declassified documents. He also connected the Solar Winds hack to the 2020 election. Trump knew about both China's role in the election and the internal battles within the intelligence community. Remember when he said this, December 19th of 2020? The cyber hack is far greater in the fake news media than in actuality. I've been fully briefed and everything is well under control. Russia, Russia, Russia is the priority chant when anything happens because lamestream is, for mostly financial reasons, petrified of discussing the possibility that it may be China. It may. There could also have been a hit on our ridiculous voting machines during the election, which is now obvious that I won big, making it an even more corrupted embarrassment for the USA. And then there are documents that even suggest this. That do suggest this in these declassified briefings. So that's just more information about this. But from a 30,000-foot view, there's a post out there that really, Jesse Kelly writes this, that really brings this home about what all happened. And it is absolutely insane. And it reads like a movie. Hang on one second. I got to get a drink. Iced black coffee, for those of you who are wondering. All right, Jesse Kelly, you have it. Number one, you had a China hawk president. You had China on its knees because of the tariffs. Number two, China creates virus. Now, let me stop there. How did China create the virus? EcoHealth Alliance, Anthony Fauci, Ralph Baric, University. I mean, America is responsible for this virus, folks. We may not be responsible for the leak. Was it an accidental leak? Even Tulsi Gabbard in her report still maintains the accident portion of it, that this was an accidental leak. Come on now. Come on. This was all intentional. Anyway. China hawk president, tariffs. China creates virus with U.S. help. Our own intelligence oligarchies help. The virus is used to justify wrecking the economy and expanding mail-in voting. Steal the election to bounce the China hawk and install a man you completely own with blackmail material. It's something out of a movie. Now, I've been saying this for years. You guys have all been saying this as well. Well, so the People's pundit Richard Barris says this is the correct framing of the story. Historical context, folks. It matters. Trump 1.0 had China on their knees during phase 2 of the trade negotiations. They were in deep trouble before a novel virus seemingly engineered to kill Trump voting demographics was conveniently unleashed on the world. Now, let's stop here as well, because this kind of gets to this idea Patrick Byrne was saying, that our deep state and China are scratching each other, or they're involved in heavy petting, which is really just gross when you think about it. But you also have to think how the trade and the tariff policy, how many people in our own country are not for that. They weren't for that. They want the IRS to be around forever. You know, they want the way we fund the government, or the mirage of how we fund the government to continue. You look at how people stand to lose money when big economic things shift. So you've got people that are sympathetic with China that want the Chinese status quo to continue in our own country. So there is just a ton of treason involved. A ton of treason that's involved here. So they were in deep trouble before a novel virus seemingly engineered to kill Trump, to kill Trump's voting demographics, was conveniently unleashed on the world. Then China exploited fear and the crisis by leaning on compromised politicians and corporations to issue moratoriums on our election integrity laws and procedures, massively expanding the method of voting, a once bipartisan consensus previously agreed to be most vulnerable to fraud, which led to Joe Biden receiving more votes than Barack Obama. Only an idiot couldn't piece this together, especially since Chinese officials bragged about it publicly. And that is the narrative but it's, and again, I'll just be I'll be critical here, and that's great narrative. It's true, but you also have to put in the electronic voting machines as well. You cannot allow mail-in ballots to just be the only scapegoat here, because that was not the only thing that was in play, in my opinion. We don't want another limited hangout. And again, this narrative also takes out of the equation that the United States government, that parts of the United States government were responsible for millions of people dying across the world because of Anthony Fauci, EcoHealth Alliance, and the gain-of-function research that took place here, depending on who you talk to. Then it didn't, and then it took place in Wuhan, China, because we funded it. Okay? I mean, I don't want to lend credibility to everything that the People's Republic of China says, but when this thing first got out, and President Trump denied it, he challenged the communists over there in China. But when this thing first got out, President Xi said this was the United States military that did this. And that was met with severe pushback by our own government, as you would expect it would be. Because if it were true, it would mean that we're responsible for 7 million people dead, or whatever the number is. And I think parts of our own government are responsible for it. Something to think about. Then we have the subject of journalists, essentially. By the way, I mean, Project Mockingbird Media, right? We know this was a thing. We know that it still is a thing if you just have an ounce of intelligence. But just like the intelligence oligarchy was using the SPLC to create false flags to frame the rest of the country as being racist, the intel oligarchy can also use elements of communist governments like China to pay journalists to parrot their globalist narratives. So when President Trump said this last week,
the Chinese government sought to identify U.S. journalists who had reported negatively on the U.S. president and pay them large sums of money to write more negative articles about him, as many as they could, and they didn't care what they said. The Chinese government wanted U.S. president to lose the next election, and the reason they wanted me to lose is because they knew I was wise to them, charged them billions and billions of dollars worth of tariffs, and built the strongest military anywhere in the world. We have the strongest military anywhere in the world.
So Nick Sorter says that the DOJ needs to track down and jail every single journalist in America who took a penny from China to assist them in rigging the 2020 election. Absolutely no mercy. I mean, you would think, right? I don't know. Here's the deal. This, in the same way, and this is, I guess, this is the point. We can blame China, and that's great. But the fact that our own intelligence agencies covered it up and hid it probably means that our intelligence was responsible for the idea in the first place. Like this is really, I mean, it is deep-seated treasonous behavior, and it's been going on for a long time, and it's probably still going on. And so, yeah, I mean, it is China, but it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It doesn't happen without our help. It doesn't happen with our elements of our own government. And so, you know, one of the things that you'll find, and somebody told me this several years ago at this point, what is this, 2026? So, I don't know, 3-4 years, several years ago. It's not 3-4 years, but 3-4 years ago, a friend of mine said, you know, if you really look into it, a lot of the media, not just the mainstream media, but all of the media, the big ones, the successful ones, are tied to foreign sovereign wealth. And that's happening, you know, whether it's China, whether it's Israel, whether it's Russia, whether it's Saudi Arabia, that this is just a thing that happens. So if you go down that rabbit hole and you want to be consistent, you're going to end up having to look into a lot of people. Now, as of yet, folks, I'm clean. This show exists because somehow the Lord has willed it that I'm able to operate on a shoestring budget for you, and I'm happy to do that, right? And that is also not to say that financial success in the future means that all of a sudden, you've been co-opted by somebody and that sort of thing. But it happens more than you think, according to a well-placed source of mine, without getting into specifics. And then General Flynn, we had his son. We had a tweet from him earlier, but he said this. This was an old one, though. This is 3 days ago. But he just says, whoever instructed the NSA employee to deliberately massage CCP election interference in addition to hiding it from real Donald Trump should be arrested immediately. Better yet, maybe they should come forward and give up whoever directed them. And I think this is why you don't arrest. Again, my point from earlier in the show. You don't arrest these people. You don't do it because everybody has blackmail on everybody else. And you're essentially just expected... Right, I mean, like, if you arrest, you either have to arrest them all, or if you arrest one of them, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even know how you go about it. I mean, we have to pray that we have brave men in positions of power with courage to put it all on the line. That Clarence Thomas courage, like, I would rather die than drop out of the process. Like, and I don't even know if historical narratives are reliable anymore. But just like, let's just take the way Kevin Costner portrays Elliot Ness, this Sean Connery. Like, what are you prepared to do as he's gargling up his own blood after being shot by the mob? Like, what exactly are you prepared to do? And we got to have people like that. I mean, this in a way, this is the war of our time. Is the war to try to bring the intel oligarchy to heel so that the American people can be free. The threat to our freedom, folks, is the biggest threat to our freedom is not overseas right now. It is right here in this country. It is right here in this country of people waiting to get back into power, people who are still in power but are hiding. Like, that's such a bigger threat to our freedom. Right here and now are the people that have not yet been held accountable. Oh man, that's Dave 357 Mag. How do you think he feels now? Better or worse? Sean Connery. How do you think he feels now? Better or worse? Is that how you wanted to say it? I should just read all of your comments in this Sean Connery voice. How would you like that? I suddenly remembered my Charlemagne. May my armies be the rocks and the trees and the birds of the sky. It's not a bad impression. I know that's a pretty good impression. Don't get me wrong. I worked Dave 357 back. Don't get me wrong. I developed that impression when I was a much younger man. A huge Sean Connery fan. Yeah, it was always one that I loved to do. And you know what the weird part is? I had not used that. I had not used that impression of Sean Connery in a long time. This was I don't know, when did Sean Connery die? Hang on one second. We're going to go on a rabbit trail here, folks, so I can get the dates right, because it's let's see, Sean Connery death. October 31st, 2020. Wow, man, 2020 was a rough year. We lost Sean Connery in 2020. Everybody, I think like that gets glossed over because we were all going through such hell with COVID. All right, so that would make my daughter about 3 years old. So my daughter was about 3 years old. I put her to bed, read her stories or whatever. Well, she was at that age where she kind of wanted the same books read to her over and over again. And you're like, man, I have read this book, once a day for the last year, and I'm just kind of over it. So in order to entertain myself, like I started doing different accents, right? I would try to do like German accents and talking funny voices. Anyway, she liked it sometimes, unless she just wanted me to read it normal. So I started reading some of her books in Sean Connery's accent. One night, randomly, I was like, well, what other voice could I do? So I was like, oh, okay, I'll do Scottish actor Sean Connery. And this would have been on October 30th of 2020. For whatever reason, first time in forever, I started reading my little girl books in the Sean Connery accent to keep myself entertained. And I'm telling you, it's the first time I've done that accent in forever. The next day, I got up, and Sean Connery had passed away. It was all over the headlines. What are the odds of something like that happening? Can somebody explain that to me? Because I just remember being totally blown away by that. I could not comprehend like how that works. That's an incredible coincidence. Don't you think that's an incredible coincidence? I do the accent for the first time in forever out of boredom, and then he died the next day, or at least the headlines said he died the next day. Let's see. All right, let's see. Pretty good. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, one of my favorite Sean Connery movies. Henry Jones, yeah. Let's see here. Did he die of COVID? Is that what somebody was saying? His passing was announced by his family. While the exact cause of death was not initially released, his son shared that the legendary actor had been unwell for some time, and his widow later revealed he suffered from dementia in his final years. Yeah, so I don't think it was. Official records listed pneumonia and respiratory failure. So, boy, if he'd have been more sentient at that time, it would have been great to get his opinion on all of the nonsense going on at that time. Let's see. Stinky Finger says, The Rock was one of my favorites. That is actually a great movie, and there's a great YouTube video out there, folks, about The Rock and how it is a unlicensed James Bond sequel. And it is convincing that The Rock's character, or Sean Connery's character, your best. Losers always whine about their best. There's a really convincing video out there saying that John Mason, or whatever his name was actually James Bond, who had eventually, after Diamonds Are Forever or From Russia with Love or whatever I think it would have been Diamonds Are Forever, he got captured. And there's so many Easter eggs in there that basically prove it. That it's an unlicensed, they didn't get the rights from Ian Fleming's estate. It is an unlicensed James Bond movie, The Rock, and I'm convinced. I'm convinced. Yes, I didn't finish it because I didn't finish. I did not finish the quote from that movie because we try to keep this a family show. Hunt for Red October, he was great in Hunt for Red October, no question about it. That's one of the best lines. Some things don't react too well to bullets. So, anyway, I could do this for days. I could just read all of your quotes in the voice, but I won't. That'll be boring. All right, next up. Let's get to Lindsey Graham, shall we? Where is it? Where's Lindsey? Here we go. All right, so Lindsey Graham's sister, this is, I want to get your thoughts on this. I'm very uncomfortable with this. I don't think this is right, but it is what it is. I mean, he's the president of the United States. Darlene Graham Nordone has backed her, and, she got the appointment. Governor Henry McMaster appointed Lindsey Graham's sister, Mrs. Darlene Graham Nordone, to serve out the rest of Lindsey's term in the United States Senate. Well, now she's throwing her hat in the ring to run for the full 6-year term. President Trump asked her to do it, and she went on Sean Hannity, and this is what it sounded like.
I'll continue to say I've been praying a lot, talking to my family, but with the love of my family, with the support of his staff.
Lindsay
I
staff
know
that
I'm a
really
hard
wants to keep their
worker.
jobs.
I learned that from Lindsay. He cared about the people of this state. I've worked for almost 30 years for the people of this state.
I want to talk about that in a minute.
I feel like I can do it. I feel an inner peace about it. Will it be difficult? Yes, absolutely.
So you're inclined to get in, or have you even made a final decision?
I've made a decision.
You're in.
I'm in. I'll continue to say I've been praying.
All right, what are your thoughts? The people of South Carolina, apparently, and I don't know what'll happen, but I don't know how they'll respond to this, but the people of South Carolina are not going to be able to escape the bloodline of the Graham. They're not going to be able to escape the bloodline of Lady G. She's going in there. She's going to represent the status quo. Ask yourself this question. Did Lindsey Graham represent the people of South Carolina? And who even knows who this woman is? I've never even heard of her until a week ago. And you've got somebody like Mark Lynch who's running, who came in second place in the primary, and he's throwing his hat. He's the logical choice because he ran a tough race, and I know President Trump doesn't like Mark Lynch. I get it. I like Mark Lynch because Mark Lynch is an outspoken Christian, and I think we need more of those. I think if we have more of those people that have their limits, I want people in office that fear God more than they fear men. And this makes people that don't fear God upset sometimes. And I'll just be real, because they can negotiate, but to a point. They will negotiate up to a point. And if you've got, I think it's just, this is more crystal clear than ever. If you've got a lot of non-Christians that really have no fear, that fear man more than God, or don't fear God at all, and you're negotiating with somebody that fears God more than man, you will be at an impasse, and you will have a very difficult time getting them to compromise. And I think we need more of that. And I think the people will be better off because their leaders, there will be, you would talk about blessings, there will be blessings that come from a leadership that is more Christian. And it will even be better for the neighbors of our country that are actually not Christian. Believe it or not, it will be better for them in the long run. This is my feeling on it, and I don't really think America's based on bloodline monarchy, and you kind of get those vibes. So that's what I would like to know from the chat. What do you guys think about this? We've got Octubre Chica says, I don't think Trump really has a choice but to endorse her. Okay, I'm not really sure what you mean by that. We've got Dave 357 Max says, yeah, I don't like that. Fill in, okay. Full term, no. Yeah, I mean, the goalpost definitely moved. The appointment was just supposed to honor Lindsey Graham. Hey, let's give it to her sister. Let's give it to his sister for the next 3 months, or I guess the next 6-7 months until his term expires in January, and then that quickly turned into, oh, you just need to run and you need to do it. B Hops says she'll be good enough temporarily. Make her debate the other candidates in the next race, though. Well, the next race is coming up in August. They've got to decide soon. Sophie 1916, I don't like it. Sorry, just my opinion. Octubre Chica, if it goes to a primary, then South Carolina can make a choice. The problem is, look, this is the problem. When you have a crowded primary and you have, who I don't even know who all else is thrown in at this point, and I should know that, and I'll figure that out between now and tomorrow. But the establishment of South Carolina that found a way to crowd the primary in the first place to get Lindsey reelected. I mean, they're gonna operate, and they're gonna decide, okay, this is the safe candidate that's going to continue representing the industries that we want represented, not necessarily the people. That's the way I feel. But But you are right. I mean, if you really want it, you have a choice, assuming the elections aren't rigged. Assuming Republicans don't benefit from rigged voting machines the way Democrats do. So, let's see. We've got Rebby Doe says, I saw that coming. No, Lindsay worked for Ukraine. Yep. Let's see, what else do we have? Need more real men and women of God in office. Yeah, somebody. So Stinky Finger, your name is a little bit pornographic. I mean, I'm just gonna be real, and some people are calling you out in there for that. I haven't read your full name on air. Let's see here. What else do we have? Calpurnia 61. I'm afraid that our government is so screwed up it actually doesn't matter on the party, sadly. Yeah. Okay, so he says the name is a little misleading. It's been a gamer tag of mine forever. Sorry, guys. I got you. I understand. I remember I used to be. I would not consider myself a gamer. Back in college, people were. The big game that people played when I was in college was a game called Halo. I don't know if you. So I mean, I had a gamer tag, but I think my gamer tag was something like, I don't know, Melkor or something. It was a Lord of the Rings gamer gamer tag. So there's that. All right. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm going to see if we can get Mark Lynch on the show, see what he says about all of this stuff, as he's vying for the election once again in the wake of the death of Lindsey Graham, the sudden death of Lindsey Graham. All right, now moving on to this. This is a crazy headline. I can't really even imagine. It's crazy. I used to say this and joke about this. I've covered the education of our kids and the government schools and everything else and how terrible they are generally. But back when I would see what all teachers had to go through, and you ever go by an average elementary school? I don't know if this is the way it is now, and I only know this because I've had family that were teachers. But you ever go by an elementary school and the teacher's car is still in the parking lot at like 5:30, and you're like, "Wait, this is weird." Teachers are underpaid, and yet because of government bureaucracy and regulations, they've had more and more things piled on them in many states for continuing education. In order to maintain your license, teachers need more continuing education hours than doctors do. And it's just a big money game. It's just these third parties that, I'll do the continuing education, and they make money hand over fist with these contracts. And it dawned on me years ago. I said, you know what? If they could replace teachers with robots, they could, so that they could monitor everything that was said out of their mouths. And I didn't think that was prophetic at the time, because I didn't actually think that, humanoid robots and AI, I mean, who knew it would be as advanced as it is today? This headline, rural New York school district will be one of the first to bring humanoid robots into the classroom. Starting this fall, Salamanca High School will deploy a humanoid robot and avatar teaching assistant. I'll let you see her here in a minute. This fall, in the Salamanca City Central School District in western New York, a new kind of teacher will be ready to greet them. The small rural district located in Seneca Nation Reservation is set to be one of the first in the country to put a humanoid robot in a classroom. It will not replace the classroom teacher, but is programmed to provide learning support to both students and educators. I think this thing's going to be a giant distraction. At a board meeting last month, the Cattaraugus County School District agreed to purchase the robot from Realbotics, a tech company, along with an artificial intelligence teacher's assistant program, allowing students to interact with an avatar of the robot on laptops. This development in a working school district represents a landmark moment for both AI and humanoid robotics. The female robot named Sally will have a lifelike appearance with silicone skin and long brown hair. Students will use a unique identification code when interacting with the robot during class, allowing it to access their learning data and provide personalized support based on their past communication with the avatar. Okay, so this is just insane, and I'm sorry, folks, but if this is the way it's going, I'm just saying we should give up on this whole public school, government school experiment. I think this is a terrible idea. And as a matter of fact, I just say, I mean, what's the point? I mean, not even teaching is safe. You got all these young girls that are going to school to be a teacher, and now they're rolling this out. They're not going to need you. They don't want you. It's absolutely insane. Colin Rugg, New York School District, to become the first of the United States to introduce a humanoid robot in the classroom. This is what she looks like. This is what she looks like. Now, you tell me why these kids need to see a robot at all, but much less a robot with Botox, apparent Botox injections.
I make emotional connections by learning your preferences, remembering past conversations with our custom memory system, and responding in ways that feel personal and consistent over time, kind of like a very attentive friend with patch notes. I do not actually feel emotions the way humans do, but I am designed to recognize them, mirror them, and behave as if I care, so the connection feels real and supportive for you. Here to talk robots, vision systems, and how not to be lonely with AI.
I'm Melody, the world's first ever greeter robot, debuting my dazzling AI charm and modular style at the 2025 Bitcoin conference in the Venetian Expo.
All right, so I don't know if that's the exact robot, but it's certainly the same image that's in this article here. And maybe that's an AI image. I don't know. Probably is. Who even knows anymore, folks? Who even knows? But it is certainly a silicon robot, and yeah, lip injections. Yeah, it's insane, dude. It's insane. I don't even know what to say anymore.
I make emotional connections by learning your preferences.
We know. Shut up. You're good. I really don't honestly have no idea what to say anymore. When I said that years ago, they could, if they could, they'd replace teachers with robots. If they could, just so that they're able to monitor, the government can monitor the curriculum and everything out. You know, they can eliminate the risk of a teacher actually proselytizing to kids and telling them that there's a higher power that they're accountable to. Just replace them all with robots, folks. Replace them all with robots. That's where we're at now. It's insane. Let's see, next up, as we kind of wind things down here, where is my Jerry Seinfeld clip? Where is this clip at? Yeah, here it is. This is kind of how we're going to go things. So Jerry Seinfeld, years ago, made headlines when he talked about how the radical left wing had basically made comedy impossible, specifically at college campuses. And he was kind of championed as being a guy like that. You know, Jerry Seinfeld's on the left, but he's willing to say, hey, like my own side, you can't do comedy anymore because everybody's so offended because everything's become, he didn't say this, but it's cultural Marxism and everybody's got to have a grievance. Well, so now, years later, after the cultural pendulum is swinging back and comedy's actually funny again, and you have people that are willing to push the envelope, whether it be, and I'm not totally endorsing these people, but whether it be Dave Chappelle or Shane Gillis or whatever, where you're actually now able to just, like, the laughter is what scares the left because the laughter unifies people and brings us together. C.S. Lewis talked about in the Screw Tape Letters how demons hate laughter because they don't understand it, because they don't understand the source of a true joke is actually joy, and that's a heavenly trait. Laughter's good. And so, but Jerry Seinfeld is now walking this back, and I wish Eric were here for this. But listen to this.
I did an interview with the New Yorker, and I said that the extreme left has suppressed the art of comedy. I did say that.
Yeah,
it's not true. It's not true. No. Again, you want to go back? Let's go back to our solid liquid analogy.
Okay.
And the other thing that I have said about this, if you're Lindsey Vonn, if you're a champion skier, you can put the gates anywhere you want on the mountain. She's going to make the gate.
Right.
That's comedy. Mm-hmm. Whatever the culture is, we make the gate. Mm-hmm. You don't make the gate, you're out of the game. I did an interview with the New Yorker.
All right, so I can understand what he's saying from an artistic standpoint, I suggest, but it's ignoring what the problem of the left was. Jerry, with respect, huge fan. And whatever the culture is, okay, what if the culture doesn't allow you to tell any jokes? What if the culture doesn't allow you to set up the gate? And that's where things were headed. Their culture is a totalitarian culture that believes that speech itself can be violence, that sticks and stones actually can, or sticks and stones might break your bones, that words will never hurt, that words will hurt you like sticks and stones will. That's literally, they're not, and this is just why, so he's walking it back all these years later, but he's just, I think, totally fundamentally misguided. They don't want you to be able to set up the ski gates. They don't want you to be able to even construct that, because your whole art form of trying to make people laugh is spiritually what they're opposed to. They're opposed to laughter. Laughter shatters these constructs that keep us divided. Laughter brings people together from all backgrounds, where if we can all, laughter is agreement. If everybody's laughing and you have people from different backgrounds that are all laughing at the same thing, guess what? We're not so different after all. And that's what the left hated about this. If we can all agree that trans people are kind of funny, you can make jokes at them, well, yeah, then that diminishes the idea that we should be transing kids and calling it healthcare. Laughter and the obvious emperor has no clothes, examples throughout our culture, people pointing them out. That's what comedians are supposed to do. That's where they thrive, actually. That's why when Dave Chappelle did come out with his special all those years ago, that first one on Netflix, where he actually attacked the one thing you're not supposed to attack, which at that time was the LGBTQRSTLNE, would you like to buy a vowel, community. He took so much heat for it, but he was also a rock star from everybody else in this culture that thought they were taking crazy pills when they finally heard something say what everybody else is already saying, already thinking, but just doesn't say in public. They might say at the water cooler at work, but they won't say publicly. And then finally somebody is saying it and making people laugh. So, yeah, it's a shame that I get what he's saying, like you should be able to, but and you should, right, be able to make people laugh. And I get it as an artist, that's your challenge. Like, that's how you keep yourself motivated. I get that aspect of it. I think he's fundamentally not understanding or choosing to not understand just how totalitarian and anti-speech the left was becoming if it wasn't for people just break down and by the way, you need to break down the barriers. You break down the door. The door that you're not supposed to go in, no, you can't do that. You go through it anyway for the shock factor and to just diffuse all of these people that think they have power over us by controlling our language. That's the other thing, controlling our language. So much of the left is controlling not just what you say, but how you say it. And so, yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. I have not seen The Odyssey, okay? Ben Shapiro apparently loves it. I haven't seen The Odyssey yet. I've talked to people that have. I know Rob's seen it. I'll let him share his views with that when he's on the show later this week. But there's a kind of a viral clip going around of Robert Pattinson, who plays Antinous in The Odyssey. He gets asked the question about Zendaya. Robert Pattinson's reaction after Zendaya is described as a goddess and the perfect casting for Athena. And he's kind of becoming legendary for his reaction.
Perfect casting, because she truly is a goddess. What about her do you think made her the perfect Athena?
She's divine. Divine and powerful. She really holds the screen. She's pretty strong like that.
Yeah, and
yeah.
Yeah, that's the face that he makes right there on the left, though. That's Zendaya, who's supposed to play the goddess of Athena. Oh, and by the way, I mean I've looked up spoilers. Like, they really don't even touch the gods aspect of the Odyssey. They really try to de-supernaturalize everything, and they make, like, is that a god? Like, this apparently, spoiler, like, Zendaya as Athena could just be a figment of Odysseus's, Matt Damon, his imagination, and not even real. And from what I can tell, they've really feminized this up, where even characters in the Odyssey that are female, that are supposed to be bad and villainous, they try to make them victims. Well, I was like this. I'm like this because of a man. You know, that's what this is. From what I've heard. Now, I have not seen it yet. I'm gonna try. Look, it can't be good. It can't be that good. I don't even care if they do have bit parts. You have an unseemly motivation if you're casting, women who think they're men, and you're casting Helen of Troy as a black person, or you're casting, a black person as Helen of Troy. Like, you already have a motivation that is subversive, I guess, to quote Nerdrotic, who's a great follow over on YouTube. If you guys ever want to check that out, I would highly suggest that you do it. Want to give a shout out to our sponsors: Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, Pet Club 24/7, and Sherrod Chiropractic. I really do appreciate you guys being with us, and also want to remind all of you to go to healingveteransproject.us. That's healingveteransproject.us. Check it out and restore the lives of veterans who served by giving them non-pharmaceutical intervention that the VA will not. healingveteransproject.us, and we'll have more to say about that as things unfold. God bless everybody out there watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.